as well.
Awesome. Well, I read a little bit of, and I apologize, I'm coming back from my daughter's game, and I read a little bit the other day, and I'm trying to read a little bit. I saw where you do radon testing and some inspections. So you do free inspections for people who are doing good things, and you do free, and please fill in the blanks or correct wherever I'm wrong here. But as I was understanding it, free radon testing for moderate or low income folks. So tell me a little bit about that.
That's correct, yes. And all of the services that we offer are provided on a sliding scale. So it's either reduced or free services for low and moderate income families. And the whole idea behind the nonprofit, you know, I had been working as a licensed general contractor in Oregon, and was working on, I was also executive director of a music school and was creating a music school. And I got word of a family tragedy, and my mother had been diagnosed with mesothelioma because of exposure to asbestos in the home. You know, we had grown up a low-income family, and you know, wouldn't have been able to afford a home inspection at that point, although it wasn't offered a lot. But within a month of her diagnosis with mesothelioma, she passed away from this incredibly preventable disease because of the exposure to asbestos in the home. So I kind of pivoted from my nonprofit work and contractor work to become a home inspector. And I studied for a couple years and then started up nonprofit home inspections as a way to make it available, you know, those home inspection services available to everybody regardless of cost. And so now we do, you know, full home inspection, we do radon, sewer scope, oil tank sweeps, mold testing, things like that. Again, the idea is to make sure that everybody has a safe and healthy home.
Dude, that's awesome. I mean, of all the people
Thank you.
I've inspected some pretty good dudes. I mean, that's pretty awesome. I mean,
No, thank you.
it's more than obviously this is. I mean, we all want to make a living. We all want to do well for our family, but obviously for you, there's more to it than just that. It's like you want to make a difference, obviously.
Yep. That's correct. It is we're very mission driven, and as home inspectors as well, that's good and bad because we are very serious about the home inspection industries, and our reports end up being maybe twice as long as our competitors in the for-profit industry, but we really try to prepare like our clients. It's we don't want to be deal killers. Every home's going to have issues. Things can be repaired. Everything can be repaired, but we try to go the extra mile and really document, really empower our clients as well to have a safe and healthy home.
Awesome, Charles. Well, I know we haven't even got to the actual questions yet. We've just been talking, but that's okay. I do have a question for you though. I looked at your website and stuff. You're a multi-inspector firm. So do all the other guys that work for you, inspectors, I'm trying to word this in a correct way. Do you get them to buy into the same mission, or they have the same mission? I mean, if I wanted to be a home inspector in Portland, Oregon, and I mean, I do like to do good things, and give back and, pay it forward, but I also, have a family I have to do well for. How do you get me to work for you versus somebody else? I mean, do you get them to buy in, I guess is sort of the question.
Yeah. Well, so we do look for really mission-driven inspectors, and we are, very picky, with our inspectors. We want to do the best job we can every single inspection. It's nice because we have a home inspector licensed trade school in Oregon and Washington for home inspectors, so we can kind of get the pick of the crop or pick of the litter, and find great, outstanding home inspectors to come work for us. They are paid, and we pay well as well. Just because we're nonprofit doesn't mean people aren't paid. However, our salaries are closely monitored by IRS. So I would make, if I was a private inspector, I'd be making 2-3 times what I'm making as a home inspector for a nonprofit organization. So we are, paid comparatively less, but we still get paid. We do invest a ton of money in ongoing education for our inspectors. Fly them out to conferences. InterNACHI, I'm here in Las Vegas now for the Inspector Super Conference with another inspector. So there are some great benefits for working with us. Stable income. We have grown to be one of the largest in the region. Home inspection companies in our region. We have 7 inspectors now. I know you have quite a few more there, but we're growing, rapidly, and and it comes from just trying to do the best job we can every single inspection.
No, and you're certainly doing that, I think. And truth be told to all the listeners out there, the way I met Charles and the way this came about, another inspector said, you need to interview this guy. He's doing good things. He's making a difference. He's paying it forward. And when I read his bio, I agreed. I was like, I need to interview this guy.
Oh.
And I talk all the time, and, I have kids, and I'm always like, you got to leave this world better than you found it. And you're certainly an embodiment of that. So let's get into the actual questions, and then we can, if there's anything towards the end, we can certainly clear that up. But again, I thank you for what you're doing. You're definitely paying it forward. Well, Charles, so we want to get to know you personally. I understand I can't even pronounce the Mississippi thing, and I get your vision. But besides that, so what's your background, and how did you wind up in home inspection? You mentioned you did some other nonprofit stuff. So, and obviously, It sounded like there might have been some construction in there. So, how did you get to what you're doing now? I guess.
Yeah. So, I went to undergrad for political science. I actually went off to the Peace Corps for a couple years, to the Congo, did that, and then went off, got my master's degree in nonprofit management. I had done quite a few nonprofit organizations, always buying buildings and fixing them up, as we went along, and mostly, permitted work and, good work, but also, had our share of, work we wish we would have done better, later. And my last position was for a family foundation that wanted to start up a music school, and they brought me on, and part of it was they wanted me to find and then renovate, purchase and renovate buildings so that they could have this great music school. And so I used that. I said, I'll do it, but I want to be the licensed contractor that heads up the renovation, because I kind of wanted to pivot away from just doing the executive director work. And so I got my license. I was the licensed contractor for this $4 million project. And that's when I got word of my mother's diagnosis with mesothelioma because of asbestos. And so, that's when I kind of shifted, and I said, it's great, doing nonprofit work, getting kids music, with budget cuts and everything like that. But what's even more important is, people having a safe and healthy place to live. And this, for home inspectors, it's, we're a nonprofit 501c3 and everything, but any home inspector, just the ability to point out defects that could impact families, not only financially, but health-related issues, is just a great public service, and something, I'm proud to be a part of, even if it wasn't a nonprofit.
Absolutely. And I totally echo what you say. And at the same time, I mean, we're not a nonprofit, although we were maybe 2 years.
Oh, yeah, I know how that goes.
Since we lost money.
Yep.
But I echo what you're saying. And I tell people, that's one of the great things about our job. All of our inspectors have the ability to do 2 free inspections a year. And I pay them. And that kind of happened accidentally. What happened, Gary, one of my inspectors, texted me and he says, hey man, I owe you for this inspection. And then the next day, I didn't even know the lady and the realtor put on social media, this woman was buying a house and she was going through chemo, and she had kids, and I can't remember, the husband wasn't in the picture. It was a single mom. I don't remember exactly what the husband, why he wasn't in the picture, but he wasn't. And she was going through it, and Gary went through it. She never asked for anything, but Gary, in talking to her at the end of the inspection, he said, you know what, this inspection's on me. And he was going to pay me the part, and I was like, nah, man, you know what? You're not going to pay me that. Yeah. And I tell you what, because of that, and it was the right thing. And I mean, this woman gave us such good PR on this too. I said, you know what? This needs to be part of our marketing strategy. That may come across as a little self whatever, but you know what? If I can do good things and, and use marketing dollars to do good things versus, putting my name on the side of a bus, I'll do that. So from there on out, and Gary got paid his normal thing. And I said, you know what? Everybody gets 2 a year. Your discretion, inspector's discretion. Somebody who just needs a break, like that lady did. Or, they've also done it for veterans, Veterans Day or Memorial Day or, active duty or I don't care. I mean, it's their discretion, gives them a little. So they get 2 a year, all the inspectors, and I'll pay them. Now, granted, that's not up to your level yet, but, I hope a lot of inspectors listen to this, listen to you, listen to this, and do something, I mean, because like you said, everybody deserves a safe place to live, and not everybody can afford, things. And, if you can do something to pay it forward or, return it better than you found it, I think that's awesome.
That's great.
Well, so all right, so you were a contractor. So, how did you get from being a contractor into home inspection? And I'm not real familiar with what the laws are in Oregon. So bring us up to speed on that.
Yeah. So I ended up taking a lot of the courses on InterNACHI and NACHI.org. I took a ton of courses there and got up to speed. Again, I had a bunch of construction experience previously, so it was kind of figuring out what home inspectors look for as opposed to, builder. And I had done, Habitat for Humanity built houses from, foundation up and everything. So I had some of that experience, but it was kind of getting down, what do home inspectors inspect and limitations, things like that. So I did that, and it's nice in Oregon because you can do it online and everything. So I could do it during free time. I spent a couple of years to do it right and study up on it. And then 2014, I started the company, the nonprofit, and within 6 months, I had a full schedule. I was turning business away. Yeah, and there was another guy in town. He was a veteran, and I started. I liked that he was a veteran, so I was, referring people over to him. But within 6 months, it was so busy already. But I did that, and then about a year into it, I ended up getting another inspector that I trained from, who had a lot of building experience. But so I brought him on board, and then about a year and a half from when I started, I ended up getting my license in Washington as well. Much more involved. You have to be in a classroom. I had to drive up to Olympia, to do from Portland to do it. But so that's kind of how we got into both areas, and we're right on the border, so we can do inspections in Oregon and Washington.
Okay, so what year did you initially become a home inspector?
2014.
2014. Oh wow! So and now it's we're looking at 2019 coming up on 2020. You've got 7 inspectors. Very impressive. I was a single man operator for like, I don't know, 7, 8 years. Long time. So you're awesome. So tell us about, and there's nothing wrong with being a single man operator. I mean, some days I think, back to that, because only had to worry about me. Now I got to worry about a bunch of other people. But there are guys that want to go, get multiple inspectors, and they struggle with, to me, the hardest one was getting the first guy. Probably your 7th guy wasn't nearly as hard to train. And in your mindset, I mean, nobody can do it as good as me, and all your realtors want Charles. So what was it like training that first one? How did you make the transition from being a single person inspector to multi-inspector?
Yeah, So the first one is very scary, and I did it basically because I'm like, man, I'm turning so much business away. Pretty soon they're just going to stop calling, and I don't want to lose that. Also, opportunity there. Also, it's like, man, I can't go away for the weekend because I got to answer that phone
Got
and
no
everything. So
life.
I'm
Yeah.
like,
No life.
yes, I'm like, I got to bring somebody on. I put an ad on Craigslist for will train, and I got like 50 some odd applications for it. And so I just went through it, and I was looking for somebody who had a lot of building experience. Didn't necessarily need to be a home inspector before, but I wanted to see that building experience, and picked a guy, and frankly lucked out, with it, because he did a similar thing, took a lot of the Antonacci courses, got up to speed while he was kind of phasing out of his other work to come over and start with us. And then, I did about 6 months worth of him shadowing me. So kind of seeing how I liked it done. But we had a similar kind of obsession for, finding defects and, reporting on them well. And so it was a good team, and it worked out really well for us.
Awesome. And I'm not sure if I asked, but is Oregon, do you have a state license? I know some states have licensing, some don't. Is it state like? And I think you said in Washington it was. Is it licensed in Oregon? And you
That's
might,
correct. Both Oregon and Washington have a license requirement for home
okay.
inspectors.
Is it like a certain number of hours and a certain number of field hours, and then you take a test type deal, or what?
Yeah, so Oregon, it's you earn credits, which you can do either by like experience. You can demonstrate previous building experience. You can get a point per class you take online. You can get recommendations from existing home inspectors and stuff like that. And you have to get these 20 points, and then and pass the national exam. When
Okay.
I did it, it was an Oregon specific exam, but they've since switched to the national exam. Um, in Washington, however, you have to physically be in a classroom for 120 hours.
Oh wow! So you were having
And
to drive up quite a
yeah,
bit.
yep, exactly. And then you have to have another week of field training after that. So Washington is much more difficult, fewer inspectors, but in general, I think they're paid better because of the barrier to entry as well. So a little bit different, but both licensed states.
Awesome. Well, Charles, this next question, I mean, it's about what you do different. Obviously, I mean, we've already addressed the big thing you do different is, you have a mission, and you're trying to provide quality homes for people who can't afford it, and companies or whatever that provide services for, if I'm understanding what you said and what I read in your website and everything. Um,
Yep.
is there anything besides that? I mean, that is a big difference, and that's a huge difference. And I don't know anybody else out there who's doing that. And quite frankly, I hope some people copy you. I really do.
Yeah.
You're probably
Yeah.
hoping that too, just not in your market, but I'm just
Oh, yeah.
kidding.
Well, and I think we're actually, as far as I know, and actually Nick Gromyko put it on the Nachi board that he had never heard of one before.
I,
So I think it may be the only 501c3 nonprofit, business out there. But others are welcome to come into it. I will say, I've got a master's degree in nonprofit management, and it's still hard, to
oh
make sure
yeah,
we're doing everything you have to do as a business, and then on top of that, you got massive IRS
oh,
oversight,
I
to
can
make sure you're doing
imagine.
it right. Yeah.
I just
So
wouldn't even want to deal with that. But is there
yeah.
anything else as far as like inspecting? I mean, let's say that, I'm buying a home and I'm not, I'm okay as far as money goes and all that, but I like what you do and I want to hire you. But other than the thing that you do with good calls, why should I hire you over one of the other guys? I mean, is there anything that you do different? Because at the end of the day, I'm worried about my family, and
Yep.
what is it that you do? What
Yeah.
would you say to answer that question if you got that answer on that question?
Yeah. So there's a couple things that we do different that wouldn't necessarily recommend for other home inspectors to do as well, especially coming into the business. But one is we have never once paid for an advertisement.
Wow.
It's all due to referrals and repeat business. And my goal starting off was that my report is going to be the advertisement or the marketing. Is the quality of that is going to drive business, because you not only have the buyer's agent who's going to see it, but you might, the buyer's going to see it, the listing agent may see it as well. And I did start seeing like listing agents start booking me, within a couple of months, because they're like, man, I want that type of inspection when I buy, or my clients buy. What we found is, we do extremely thorough inspections, and the idea is to give our clients ammunition for requesting repairs. Now, I know some agents hate that because you get a very long report and you're going to scare my client and everything. But I think if you set expectations properly ahead of time and say, this will be very big, it will look scary, most of it doesn't matter. Most of it is, a list of things that you do later. And by the way, it's not fair for a buyer to ask for the seller to repair every single one of these issues. It's houses, have issues. And but that's one thing we've done is, again, the marketing is at the report. The quality of the report is marketing. We've never once reached out to real estate agents, never visited their offices as well to seek business, but we just strive to make the quality of the report the driving force behind it.
Awesome. Well, it certainly worked out.
I was
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll say one other thing. I know a lot of other guys are doing too, though. But in terms of infrastructure, we were using HomeGauge originally for the booking and stuff, which was fine. It was went along with the fees that we paid monthly for it, so
Right.
it's free basically. But switching over to ISN as a multi-inspector firm was one of the best things we could do to limit the drive from
Sure.
inspection in the morning, because you can say don't go further than 20 miles away. And really probably 95%, maybe even more, of all the inspections we book are on our website. And we, if you call up our phone number, it says go to the website and schedule there, which is also very odd for a home inspection company not to, pick up the phone. But we want people to check out the website. We have all the pricing there and everything. They can read our reviews and go to the website. We know we're losing out on some people who may not be as technologically savvy, but also all of our reports are digital, like a lot of home inspectors. And so if they can't, schedule online, are they going to be able to get as much from our report as they should as well? So.
Sure. And I've been on your website initially when the guy first told me about you. And then in my daughter's game, I'm doing a little research, before I talked to Charles, I did. So I'm on my phone, and your website converts very well. It's nice. It's simple. It's not, over like, oh my God, what is this? It's clean. It looks good. I like it a lot.
Thank you.
Charles, you've obviously, you've taken a different path than most, and kind of like that Robert Frost, the path diverted, and I took the one less traveled, and that sense have made all the difference. But obviously, you have learned some stuff. Let's say a new guy, meets you at the conference and says, "Charles, I heard about you. You're successful. You obviously are. What advice would you give me? I want to go in business today. Even if I'm not going to be a nonprofit, what advice would you give?"
Yeah, I think going back to the report, make that be your selling point, just the high quality of it there. Also, one thing I think home inspectors do instinctively, initially, like when they get into it, is they are a bit too alarmist on issues, and it's like you see a little puddle of water in the crawl space. Oh no, it shouldn't be water there. It's like, yeah, but is it the end of the world? No, and so I would say that don't freak out, and also another thing I tell a lot of guys in our inspection course is that you're going to see stuff that you've never seen before. Like when you're doing your home inspection, you do not want to tell your clients you've never seen that item or appliance before. But what you need to do is use the normal operating controls, see if it works. That's the standards of practice, is see if it works. take a billion pictures of it and then research it like crazy when you get back home. And if there are defects, then you put it in the report. But just keep your mouth shut until you become an expert on that, and then next time you won't have to look it up. But that's, I think,
I tell my guys almost the exact same thing, and I just say, if you have to tell the client, say, I haven't seen this particular thing, and I'm not 100% sure on it, but here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna research it, and I will find out. And by the time the report comes out, I'll have the answer for you. But you don't want to back yourself into a corner that you can't get out of. I always, if you say something you think is right, and then you research it, and you're like, oh crap, that's not right. This thing is okay with, everything has this type of event with, there's exceptions and all this stuff. So I always say, just don't back yourself into a corner. You know why they have the Oval Office, don't you? I always use this example. It's George Washington. George Washington didn't live in the White House, but he had a lot to do with the building of the White House. And it was his idea for the Oval Office. And the idea was that they even had reporters back then, couldn't corner him, that he could slide along the wall and get to a door and get out.
That's a great.
And I always say, Oval Office, if you don't know something, Oval Office, give yourself, say, I'm not exactly sure, give yourself the leeway to, we'll find out and I'll come out. Don't put yourself into the corner.
Yep.
So I'm going to flip it on you. Oh, go ahead, Charles. Go ahead.
Well, one other thing I think it's important for inspectors to know, and also to express to their clients, is that home inspectors are not experts on every individual component.
Nobody
Exactly.
could be.
Yeah, and so you're a generalist, and you'll find out what may be wrong with it. But I think setting that expectation that you're not an expert in every single field is very important. And I see some guys, on websites, I'm the expert home inspector. I'm like, whoa, that is not going to do well in front of a judge, who's like holding you to a higher standard. And also, it's just frankly not reasonable to hold a home inspector to the same standard as experts in multiple different fields.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look at the medical field. If I have an injury, I'm going to go to the emergency room. I'm going to go to immediate care, like we all are. But then if they diagnose I have an irregular heartbeat or something, they're going to send me to a cardiologist, somebody who's specialized. And that's where I want to go, because now it's a little more specialized. And this person deals with hearts all day long. You got a foot problem, was it podiatrist or something? They're specialists for each thing. So, I always say, we're like the generalists, because sometimes realtors will get a little bit like that. Like, you're recommending a HVAC person, what did I hire you for? And I'm like, would you say that to your doctor if they sent you to a cardiologist because you have an irregular heartbeat? They know enough to know what your problem is and who you need to go see. And they probably even have some ideas of what it is. But at the same time, let me send you to a person who specializes in hearts all day long, every day. And, they're probably going to be able to treat your particular problem a little bit. But let me flip the thing on you. I asked what advice you would give. What's the best advice anybody ever gave you, Charles?
So in college, I had a professor who said, set expectations. It's the most critical thing you can do. And if you're able to do that, you set expectations early, then it's much easier, to exceed those expectations. Then you're a hero. But if you've got unreasonable expectations, oh, you've got infrared, so you must be able to see through walls, is like, whoa, no, and so you manage expectations. I think is a very important thing for home inspectors.
Absolutely. And I always tell my guys, I mean, it may not sound good, but it's better to under-promise and over-deliver than over-promise and under-deliver.
Yep.
I mean, people are never going to complain about you over-delivering, but they'll certainly complain about you under-delivering. Though, Charles, just going to a little bit more unpleasant side of it. You do enough inspections, you're going to have an unhappy camper. Somebody's going to move in, and even if you set expectations, something not going to work or something happens, and they're going to call you back. You missed this, or the classic. My contractor out here says you should have fill in the blank. What are you going to do? So how do you handle those things?
Yeah.
What do you do if you have an unhappy camper? Do you have a process? What do you do?
Yeah. So with us, and our inspectors, basically I tell them, number one thing is be responsive, return the call, or take the call. The thing that really irritates clients is, and you'll see it in people's 1-star reviews and stuff, like, I called, and they never returned my call. I called with a problem and they never returned. It's like, that is guaranteed to tick them off. So if somebody's got a problem, listen first and foremost. Second, if there's an issue, I tell our guys, really drop everything and, talk to them on the phone first. If that doesn't solve the issue, go out to the house, look at it, and with them. Also, by the way, take a ton of photos as you're going, because now you're entering, potential legal issues and stuff, but document things well. But that I've seen has, diffused, we've never had a problem, and so if you're responsive, show that you care. And then also you can explain, like, the limitations, we had one where somebody, pulled up carpet, and, they had moved in a week prior, and there's a bunch of mold under there. And it's like, how could we see that? We didn't pull up the
You
carpet.
didn't bring
This
your
is a
X-ray
visual only
glasses,
inspection.
Charles.
Yeah. And by the way, you didn't request the mold sampling in
Right.
the air, which would have caught that, so, things like that. So you kind of have to say, really, and explain the limitations of a visual only. I'm not allowed to pull up the carpet. You didn't own the property then. So I think if you kind of work through it, but most important thing is be responsive. I had another one early on where, I did an inspection on a flipped house, which those always get my spidey senses, going off, and found a ton of defects in a crawl space, that was, tiny, 1.5 foot, maybe, but I was getting through there and checking everything out. Found it didn't have insulation in the floor and things like that. But then the guy moved in and his kitchen sink wasn't draining, and he's like, what's going on? You did such a great thorough report, and I dropped everything. I went back, and sure enough, they had 10 different contractors down there fixing all the other defects that I found, the insulation, the, wiring, things like that. And one of the guys had broken off one of the pieces of support for the drain line, and it shifted the pitch. And so it was, of course, clogging up. So I brought out the damaged hanger and said, oh, here's what it was. And you might want to have those insulation guys come back and fix it, So, it kind of sucks.
You became a
Well,
hero.
well, except for that contractor that had to come back, but, it sucks that you have to go back, suit up again, and go do it again. But it's like, that's kind of the thing of being a home inspector. If you can't solve it on the phone, it's like, yeah, it is, it is. And home inspectors, are paid, well. And so you got to take that into account. And for us too, as we've grown, each home inspector's clients are their responsibility. They've got to make sure that they're happy at the end of the day. And, they do a great job for us and take ownership of those calls and as well.
Yeah. And I can't tell you, I've been on so many like that, and I can't tell you how many times, a GFCI is tripped and you've gone out and reset the GFCI, or it's a outlet that's controlled by a light switch and they didn't realize it, and they may be older or whatever. And you get out there, and it's like you said, it sucks that you went out there. It's a double-edged thing, though. I'm relieved that it's not something big and it's something simple. But then you're like, I drove all the way out here for that.
Yeah.
It's cost of doing business. You're not going to own a business without having some stuff. You just need to own it. That's just part of the whole package.
Yep.
And my advice to everybody in there is take the good with the bad. You're going to have the POS, one day, and then you're going to have the, 1,500 square foot on a slab and pull downstairs. It's 3 years old. So it's good with bad. It's all part of it. But if you think your life's going to be perfect and you're never going to have any complaints, you're going to be wrong. You're setting yourself up for disappointment. Well, okay, so you started 2014, if I heard that correctly, and we're rolling up on 2020, so 5 to 6 years in business. and then you were contracted before that, so you obviously, you're pretty familiar with. What's the toughest time you've ever had in your business, and what'd you learn from it, Charles?
So for me, it was early on, and I tell the guys in our course too, like, the first couple reports that you write, it's going to take you 12 hours, to write
Yeah,
the report, because you're learning the software, you're figuring out, you're researching stuff on Google. And so, that first 6 months was brutal, because and we have a policy of same day home inspection reports. So at, by midnight, that send button will be hit on that. But I was finding that I was staying up till midnight every night, then waking up 6 o'clock, two more inspections, and so that was brutal, like early on. But, being busy also is a good, problem to have. And also the tied in with that was the inability to take a couple days off, because as a one person company
uh,
you can't do it. Or even a week, having a week vacation, it should not be unreasonable for anybody. And I was trying to go to the Oregon coast for a week, and I was on the phone all the time saying, oh, sorry, yeah, next available spots in two
and you
weeks
hated it,
and
yeah. And then you're
yeah.
like, they're going to use somebody else, and if they like them, then they're. No, I was there. One man
Yep.
shop, man. I made good money, but I just had no life, And sometimes I was up till late doing reports, and because I would try to work everybody in, which meant a normal day for us is 2 inspections, but I would do 3, and
Yeah.
you do 2 or 3 days in a row. I mean, I know I hear some guys like, oh, I do. I'm not gonna critique anybody else's work, but I know that for me, doing 2 inspections a day is pretty full day, and doing 3 is really pushing it. And I can do it, but I can't do it for a long time. I'll burn out, and
Yeah.
I'll be up till midnight doing reports, and it's just not the life I want.
Yeah. I asked my wife to hit me with a shovel if I ever do 3 again. So
And I'm like, if I do 3, they better all be condos,
there you
or
go.
something. Well, Charles, do you have social media? And if so, do you have any tips on that?
We do have accounts. We actually don't use them that much. Yeah, I've just never spent a lot of time on developing it. I asked, friends to be involved every once in a while. We get new subscribers and stuff like that, but I haven't taken the time to develop it all. I've mostly been working on, website stuff directly on our site, with the hopes that that would kind of boost visibility that way.
Do you do the website yourself, or are you the person that maintains it? What do
Yeah,
you use?
yeah.
WordPress or Joomla, or what do you?
Yeah, it's WordPress, which is good and bad. Good in that it's real flexible, bad in that if you do one wrong update, your whole website goes down, and
That's
that
why
can,
every time
and
we have 2, and the WordPress one I kind of look at. Chip does the other one, but every time it's like an update's available, I'm like,
yep.
if you wait too long, which I did, it's like stuff wouldn't work, and the newer plugins wouldn't work. So I was like, I had to contact somebody else. I was like, can you do this update and this backup, and who's like a specialist, because I'm afraid if I screw it up. I know
Yeah,
enough to mess it up, but not enough to fix
it's a
it.
lot of work for sure.
Yeah. Well, Charles, how do you overcome price shoppers? First question out of that: how much you charge for an inspection?
Yep.
And then they're calling like 4 other guys.
Yeah.
Boy,
So for us, we, as I mentioned before, we do all the scheduling on our website there. So, and if they call us up, we do have a phone server, and all the prices are listed and everything. So in that respect, they will listen to the price, and if they don't want to do it, they won't schedule. So and everything's very transparent, pricing same no matter who calls us or anything, which, you see there's some, at least locally, there's companies that don't list their prices at all. And if I was a consumer, I'd be like, well, why aren't you listing the price? And does it change based on who's calling? But I think being transparent about it, and then, our prices are moderate for our region. I didn't want to go, too high, didn't want to go too low and undersell ourselves. But, the regular pricing is about moderate based on, we do annual call arounds ourselves just to see what other people are
Sure.
charging. And we just try to keep it fair. Then again, we have application where low income families can apply for reduced or free services as well, just on the website there as well.
That's awesome, brother. That's awesome. Um, I know you can't predict the future, but obviously technology is changing, society changes. What if I had to ask you, I'm like, Charles, we'll give you a beer here. Pretend like we're at the bar. What do you think in the future, like 5 years from now, 10 years from now? How do you see, and I'm not holding you to this. I mean, nobody knows for sure, but how do you see the industry changing?
Well, so one way I don't see it changing right away is automation, which a lot of other industries are succumbing to. So
Yeah.
I think that's a good thing for our industry because you got to be smart. You got to discern like the defects if they're a big deal or not, and it's not something a robot can do. You got to
Yeah,
use a lot of good
I
judgment.
like AI, but I don't think it's anywhere near that. I mean,
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's good. It's not going to be an automated process, or at least the inspections won't be very good if they are, because it takes that judgment call for everything. I could see technology. I mean, I was just sitting in the infrared conference or class there, and I could see, we do the 360 cameras just to
yeah,
document the home stuff. A 360 infrared camera would be pretty sweet. That would be really cool just to
it's a good
take one
idea.
per, yeah, per
All right,
room.
Slier, are you listening to this
Yep,
podcast?
yep.
Million
Yeah,
dollar
so
idea right there. I mean, I'm sure they probably already thought about it.
working on
Maybe
it.
in the works for all we know.
Yeah, something like that would be awesome. But yeah, I think the key will be tools, better and better tools. Infrared. When I started just 5 years ago, the camera I bought was $8,000 for an E8. And now they're
Come down.
2,000. Yeah, exactly. And it's like, so I think more, better technology. That being said, I think there is something for the home inspectors, the home inspector walk in the roof, not just using a drone to look at it, because you can't see, are the shingles bonded, or you can't do it as well if you're not there. So there'll be a balance, but I think technology will help improve the industry in general.
Awesome, awesome. We actually answered this question earlier. Um, all right, so here's a good question. I'm not sure if you're in well, I guess you're in a couple of forums because you mentioned them earlier. And they've actually, I think, gotten better overall, but every once in a while, the forums. That's
Yeah.
basically the question. How do we keep it professional? And, I don't want to be a hypocrite. I've gotten into a few things. I try to stay, Switzerland, and I try to keep the high road, but every once in a while somebody will say something, and if they, I don't know, I'm always like, if we want to be professionals, get paid like professionals, we got to act like professionals.
Yeah.
Most of the time we do, but sometimes on the forums it goes south. And I'm, again, I'm not saying cuss words don't mind me, don't bother me. I don't
Um,
disrespect. That's the whole thing. I always tell my kids it's all right to disagree, but it's not okay to disrespect. Always give somebody,
yeah.
like Charles, I don't agree with you on this thing. I think you're a great person, but I just disagree with you on this. That's being respectful, But if it's
Yeah.
Charles, I think you're an idiot because da 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 da. You see that sometimes, and of course you're going to get defensive, and of course you're going to come back at me, you know. I think the magic words are it's you will agree to disagree on that. So,
Yeah.
but anyway, now that I've talked and it's your interview, sorry.
Yeah.
What's your thought? I mean, on forums and stuff. Is there any way we can keep it more professional?
It is rough, and I think there's a lot. I mean, or not. There's a few guys out there that are kind of louder than others, and frankly, just create problems. On the InterNACHI boards, unfortunately, there's a couple of guys who just basically troll other inspectors, and I'm thinking, man, I am so busy. It's like I don't have time to. Like, how's this guy work as an inspector and, spend all this time in the forums harassing other inspectors and stuff. So, I mean, our solution basically is not to engage too much,
Yeah.
and basically there's some great stuff. I'm looking forward to listen to more of your podcasts,
Oh, thank
and,
you.
being able to absorb stuff from other inspectors without, getting involved in the back and forth over silly stuff. And also, I mean, some of it is like, well, it's, in your region or your state, standards of practice that may be applicable, but it's not in mine, and, whatever. So I just try to stay out of it too much, and kind of observe, and then discount the trolls that are just causing trouble.
Yeah. And my advice to any young inspector, I used to hate, like, I would just see a young inspector just tore up, like he'd ask a question, and, he might be a young inspector. I mean, we were all young inspectors once. I mean, we didn't know everything we know now, when we first started. I mean, I think we got all agree on that. And, some inspectors are just, guys like you that are the problem with our profession. I'm just like, whoa. My advice to them now, knowing what I know now, is find a couple of good guys that you see on the boards that always help people and aren't disrespectful, and befriend them, and send them private messages and stuff. Hey, and always, it's a give and take too. Don't always, but, maybe even send them something and just say, hey, thank you for helping me. That means a lot. And then when you find something, ask them, I've never seen this before. Take a picture of it, send it.
Mhm.
What do you think? Thank you in advance. And then maybe if they do that 2 or 3 times, you know what? Send them a gift card or something and show that, because you don't want to just be a taker. And, it
Yep.
would mean a lot to some of those guys too. And they probably would go out of their way to help you. So
Yeah.
identify some of those type guys. And they're out there.
Or
There are some out there.
or even, if you have got a veteran inspector and offer to help, with their website or something, or give them suggestions on how they can embed a video or something, things like that, to drive more traffic to their website as well. I think we can help each other out.
Absolutely, absolutely. We're winding down. We're on the last page of questions. And again, I appreciate your time.
Oh.
And for all the listeners out there, Charles is actually at a conference. So he is taking time out of his conference. He could be drinking at the bar right now. I don't see him as that type of guy, other than just for informational purposes with other inspectors. But he is sacrificing his time to do this, and he's given a lot of gold nuggets. I appreciate it, and I know all the listeners appreciate it. What's the craziest callback you've ever had, and what's the craziest thing you've ever found on an inspection? I mean, probably
Okay.
2 separate questions. Probably should ask.
Yeah. So craziest callback. One of our inspectors had done an inspection, and then I got a call from the client saying, oh, your inspector missed some stuff. And so I'm, got the message immediately. I'm calling and seeing what's going on. And he's like, oh, you missed this, didn't say there wasn't insulation in the floor. He didn't mention there was knob and tube wiring, or, he had a list of a bunch of things that he said our inspector missed. And so I pull up the report, and I'm like, well, look on page 32, he says there's no insulation in the floor. Look on page 41, he says there's knob and tube. Exactly. And so I went through every single one, and I'm like, there's a picture of the knob and tube wiring. He says it's there, and so I went through each one of his things, and like every single one the inspector had said it was in the report. And then his excuse was like, oh, well, I didn't have a chance to read the report. I didn't, review it well enough, or, wasn't able to spend enough time with it. I pulled up my HomeGauge dashboard and looked, and he had opened it 10 times. So he had viewed this report. So then again, my spidey sensors are like, what's going on? Because it's like, you read the report. I can see by date and hour when you opened it up using the credentials and everything. So that was kind of weird. It went away because we're like, it's all there. We all your concerns. Maybe it didn't sink into you, but it was very well documented. You looked at the report 10 times. You should have known.
That's crazy.
So that was crazy, and it did go away. But then craziest thing, I'm fairly certain I found Chupacabra withered up in a crawl space. It was like probably a 50 or 60-pound animal, huge fangs, and desiccated and dried up in this
Oof.
crawl space. And it's like it must have stunk like crazy for months, as this thing was rotting away there. But that was probably the craziest thing. It was just so large, and
Oh, wow.
I know the smell must have been horrendous. So
Wow, wow. I don't want to take over your interview, but I do want to add something to the craziest callback. I have a new one. Have you got a
oh.
minute? I'll tell you about this
Yeah,
one.
yeah,
I
yeah.
used to, have some crazy ones very similar to that. This is the newest one, and this is the craziest thing ever. And this guy wrote us a bad review on the BBB, and we have like 80, perfect 5-star whatevers, and we get a 1-star or whatever. I'm like, what the heck? And we read it, and we talk to the guy. Here's his complaint, that we found $4,000 worth of problems in the crawl space. And I guess he's buying this house, right? And his mortgage person or whatever, his lender would not give him the loan until he got all those things repaired. So therefore, it's our fault. And that is his complaint.
That's
And
crazy.
I'm like, what did you hire us to do? I mean, would you
Yeah.
rather us? It is the
Just
most
rubber stamp
craziest.
it. Yeah, look the other way.
And I'm
That's
like, so
crazy.
would you rather move in and then find out? I mean, sir, your complaint is ridiculous. I
Doesn't
mean,
make
I don't
sense.
know. Dang if you do, Dave. That's a crazy one. I'm like, are you under the influence of anything when you read this, or I mean, when you wrote this?
Yeah.
Are you smoking anything? Well, I kind of probably know the answer to this that you're going to give. What's your best low cost no cost marketing
Website and report. Reports are passed around, so make it look really nice and professional.
idea?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I agree. So here's my trademark question I always ask, and truth be told, all honesty, I stole this question from another podcast, not Home Inspection, and I always thought it was great. And I changed the numbers a little bit from John Lee Dumas, Entrepreneur on Fire. Shout out to him if you want to listen to a good podcast. If you had to move to a brand new area, pretty much the same target market, you still had all your guys, room and board was taken care of, just nobody knew you. I mean, you woke up in the morning in a brand new place, the same size as Portland, but you've got to somehow get the word out, or you got $5,000. And I know you're more of word of mouth, but what would you do with that $5,000?
So one thing I would work on web presence for sure. Now that does take a long time to kick in. So if it was just me personally starting over, I would spend a lot of time doing that. And because it's going to take 3 months before you're even ranking on Google or anything. Now, if I had 7 guys I had to keep busy, that's a different story. If I had $5,000, I probably would maybe go for some earned media with news stations, maybe do some free inspections for local homeless shelter, domestic violence shelter, something like that, and maybe leverage some of that earned media, because one, you would then be able to reach an enormous crowd over the TV spot, and then 2, you gain credibility locally. So you say, oh, I was on the TV station, and here's a video on my website and stuff like that. So you build up that credibility in the local market. It's free, it's doing good work, and getting your name out there. So, but you got to, send out the news releases and things like that. But I'd probably do that.
Awesome, awesome. Well, Charles, is there anything that I didn't ask you but I should have?
So conference is great. Here the inspection conference, I think we talked a little bit about it. I found that going to these helps clarify my mind a lot, and also kind of stepping back from the day-to-day operations of running a home inspection
It
business.
does.
Yeah. And
Get
what
you
I
to look
found,
at it from 10,000 feet because you're so
exactly,
like into it every day to step back and look at it and talk to other inspectors too, I think. Sorry, I didn't mean to
exactly.
hijack
No,
your question.
and learn best practices, learn new ways of doing things. Like I use ISN for our scheduling, and a year ago, the realtor thing, the app where the realtors themselves can book you on their app.
Right.
They previously they weren't able to schedule specific time slots that you had. They would pick their own time, which doesn't work if you have set time slots. But I found out just recently they've changed that, and so now, I mean, that's exciting because the agents are going to be able to book in 2 minutes rather than having to go to our website and everything. So just kind of learning new stuff and best practices and what the advances in the industry is really great.
Awesome, awesome. I'm going to add something to that. I love ISN, and it gets back to them. They're going to love, that you said good stuff about them.
uh,
So I'm going to add something to that. I love ISN. One thing that I wish they would do, I'll just set this out there. When you have multiple inspectors, and so you're scheduling the different inspections if they come in, right? And it kind of changes like you schedule them ahead of time, right? But as you get closer to the day, and like let's say like tomorrow, our schedule goes out at 7. But right before it goes out, we kind of look at the whole schedule, and they came in sort of different ways. But now that we see all of them on the boards, could we rearrange some and get some closer to where people live? And every once in a while, for whatever reason, well, that realtor with that inspector, no. That's a
yeah,
personality conflict. So we need to switch some stuff around. And here's the problem. Some of these inspectors have looked at their schedule, and if they get one switched or they lose one that, wait a minute, I lost an inspection that was more money than this one that I got that, they start getting pissed off.
yeah,
So my idea was, I wish we could kind of keep them where they couldn't see them until right before they go out, because, they feel like that's my inspection. I lost my inspection. I'm like, well, it really isn't your inspection until, we're trying to be equal and we're trying to be fair. And certainly guys who have good personalities and they do a good job, they get referrals and stuff like that. But sometimes if you haven't run into that a little bit, you will. And I wish there was some way that, until that schedule goes out, I don't know. You have any thoughts on that? Have you run into anything like that?
yeah. We haven't run into it too much. When we have, and this is a great thing about having a multi-inspector firm though, is like, I mean, literally I got the 3 o'clock phone call from one of my inspectors. His wife just went into labor. He's got
Oh,
2 inspections today and stuff like that. It worries me a little bit because the client is expecting, a
yeah.
certain inspector, because,
If somebody else
and
shows up.
maybe requested them and stuff. And so, exactly. And that can
You got a
be
good excuse
disconcerting.
on
So,
that one
yes.
example. If any realtor has a problem with that, then I probably don't
Yep.
work with them. But I know
Yeah,
what you're saying. You're not going
exactly.
to have
But
that good of an excuse every time.
no, no. So, but yeah, I think there's improvements they can make. One worrisome thing that, a couple months ago, they said, we're only going to support one credit card processor. When I got that email from ISN, I don't know if you got it too, but they're like, all these other, we're only going to support Guardian Financial as a credit card processor from now on. I'm like, whoa, I may need to get a new scheduler too.
Yeah,
So that type of stuff they can't do. They did back off from it and, kept everybody because they support, PayPal and Authorize.net and
sure,
everything
sure.
now. But that's a
Yeah,
little
that would be awful if
concerning.
it was just one. Yeah, because it's like, yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. Well, we're winding down. Is there anything you want to ask me? And I have no idea.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to ask you, because I know you've got a multi-inspector firm. What is the best way that you found to go about finding and hiring top-notch inspectors and retaining them as well?
Well, I think, did you say you have a school, right? Or you're teaching
Correct.
inspection? I think that's the best way, honestly. The second best way is to become friends. I'm really good friends with one of the biggest instructors here in the state. It's well known. And like I send all my guys to her. It's a husband and wife team. And she's actually, I mean, they are super knowledgeable. I love them. And so I send all my guys to them all the time. And she's also involved in the state board, which kind of helps out, if we ever have a problem. But in turn, she also knows whenever she has somebody come through that's in our area, she's like, hey, if you haven't found a job, you should see these guys. And she offers our guys a little bit of a discount. So I think the first best way would be to train, like you said, because then you can pick and choose, yourself. The second best way, if you don't have the bandwidth to do the training, is befriend somebody, if they're not a competitor. I mean, in our case, they're actually inspectors in another part of the state, so I'm not, but they're more into the education than they are inspectors. They travel around the state. They're really, really good. So that's one way. The other way is, now I know you have marketed your business because you do such a good calls and it's good word of mouth and your report's so good. But, for the guys who are out there marketing offices, I always look to find the person who has like the worst, little flyer that he did on a dot matrix printer, like this guy might be a great home inspector, but he's a terrible marketer. And he might be, and like you said, the digital thing, everybody needs to be on the front page of Google, in the first, whatever. Well, go to the, do home inspection in your city, go to the 5th page, the 6th page, and see who's on there. And you know what? This guy might need some help. I mean, he might not be really good. He may be a great inspector, but, it's a rare inspector who's a great inspector and a great marketer and a great web person and a great, I always tell my guys, most inspectors are pretty good at the technical part. There's a technical part, there's an administration part, and there's a kind of a marketing aspect or web, whatever. And nobody can be good at all three. Even if they were, they can't allocate the time to all three. So, if you've got a system out there, look for somebody who might not be good at the other two, but they're really good at the technical part. And, they might actually do better working for you because even if they're a one-man shop, they've got to pay somebody to do all these other parts. And like you said, they can't go on vacation. They can't. That's what the pain point is. I mean, the advantage to work for you, Charles, is, I could come work for you and all I have to do is inspect. I don't have to do the marketing. I don't have to answer the phone. And you know what? I can go to the Oregon coast for a week and I don't have to be on my phone every, let me reschedule that, because you have the infrastructure to take care of that. And that's a pretty attractive thing. So that's the advantage. And there's great things about one-man shops, and anybody who's listening to one-man shop, it's perfectly fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But, there's advantages and disadvantages to one. I was talking to some one-man shops, and I said, if I was a one-man shop, I would market that every time you call us, you get the owner of the company. Every time, when you call that other place, you get multiple inspectors. But now the downside of that is if you ever do decide to get multiple, and you've been marketing this forever, now you can't do that anymore. And the downside of that also is once you get booked out 2 weeks, you're going to have to turn people away. So advantage and disadvantage. Well, Charles, and all the listeners out there, this guy's given us a lot of gold nuggets. He's brought you value. So what we'd like to do, what I'd like to ask all the listeners, Charles, is to go to your internet properties, give you some likes or loves, and I think that might help your SEO rankings. If you've got something good, please, I know you're not huge on Facebook, but if you got a Facebook page and your internet, just the fact that a whole bunch of people go to it, I think it'll help. So what's your internet properties and where can they go out and like you or follow you or that sort of thing?
Yeah, if you could check out our website, it's nonprofithomeinspections.org. And that's our main site there. And we have a link to our Facebook pages there. But we'd appreciate the traffic and check out our programs in Oregon and Washington.
Okay, and if they wanted to, I'm not opening the floodgates. If they wanted to, can they contact you through the website and whatnot?
Yep. So we've got a contact form there, but also feel free to send me an email, charles@nonprofithomeinspections.org, and I'd be happy to help.
Well, Charles, thank you so much. I'm going to push stop here. Thank you, and thank you all the listeners for listening.